So later this month, the National Women's Convention will be taking place in Detroit. Now, there's a lot of speakers there, very prominent women activists, politicians, media figures. But there are some, there's one guest that has some people flipping the fuck out. Organizers recently announced that Bernie Sanders will be making an opening speech on Friday. And, of course, as soon as they made that announcement, on Twitter, all hell broke loose. Mm-hmm. With me, I have Nomiki Kans, TYT investigative reporter, as well as a member of the Unity Reform Commission and a scheduled speaker at the Women's Convention. Welcome to the show, Nomi.
That is true. Thank you for having me. I am all of those things.
That's for sure. So what I want to do is I want to talk about that reaction, because I think it's sort of endemic to what the split between Hillary Clinton supporters and Bernie Sanders supporters that is still happening in the Democratic Party, and how we have really achieved very little unity. So I want to share a couple of tweets here. One of them was, "What ultimately disappoints me about the choice of Sanders to open the first women's convention in some 40 or so years is that we have some excellent leaders to choose from who are women." So that actually sounds like a bit of a reasonable point, right? Oh, it's a women's conference. Why is there a dude speaking?
I mean, if it were true.
Right.
Okay.
And well, that's the thing that I've seen.
60 plus women speaking. There's 2 men speaking, 60 plus women speaking.
Exactly.
You know, they completely ignore the fact that, that the theme of the conference is reclaiming my time by a representative named Maxine Waters, who's announced 2 weeks ago, and nobody paid attention then, and she's a Hillary person. So I don't know. I think that this is I'm going to be frank. You know, you're right. Yes, this is revealing the divides that continue to exist within these 2 movements, right? The Hillary Clinton side and the Bernie movement, or whatever you say. But I actually don't think the divide is as stark as people think. I think it's a very small percentage of people who are kind of in the business of Hillary Clinton, right? Who have frustration over other things. I mean, I'm not going to read into their psyche, but I'm going to assume that some of them thought they were going to have jobs, who grew attached to that idea and will point fingers wherever they can. And it's really, they target women in the Bernie Sanders movement in particular.
Right.
But I think the rest of us have moved on. I mean, you look at that panel, there's 60 plus speakers, and it's, only a handful of people who really supported Bernie Sanders. And that was strategic. The 4 founders, Tamika Mallory, Carmen Perez, Linda Sarsour, and Bob Bland, worked very hard to create a unity set of principles at the Women's March. They decided to invite women that reflected all different factions of the parties, with different experiences, different backgrounds, and it is a really incredible and remarkable thing what they've been able to do. Now, they did extend invitations out to Hillary Clinton, and she could have said, yes, she's actually going to be in the area. She's on her book tour in the area at that time. But she has the right to refuse, and she has her own life. Senators Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Kirsten Gillibrand all were offered invitations, and they denied those requests. So, are there going to be the largest names on the first night? Absolutely. But the opening headliner is Maxine Waters, and the theme of the conference is reclaiming our time. And how apropos is it that the media, they didn't report on it this way, by the way. This is something that a few people who have very large megaphones on Twitter decided to turn into a partisan issue when it was never a partisan issue. And then it became a story because they did that.
Right.
And what that does is that, I think, is diminishing the 60-plus women and the organizers who have been very, very thoughtful about how they want to put the issues forward and recruiting allies. I mean, you can't fight a movement without allies. Right.
Now, you're right. It is a very small amount of people. There's people like Peter Dow, our favorite people, Joanne Reed, Neera Tanden, but they do represent a very small part of the Democratic base and those who follow them. I mean, look, Bernie Sanders is incredibly popular in the Democratic Party. I believe, 92% favorability ratings or something like that among the Democratic Party. There's the hate percent. What's that?
Yeah. Not to mention independence.
Yeah, yeah. And he's actually one of the best recruiting tools for people to actually come into the Democratic Party. That includes people who are, millennials, as you said, independent people who might even vote Republicans. They like Bernie Sanders, and that's somebody that they can use to actually bring into the party. But instead, here we have all these very big people sowing this kind of, I guess, faux division, and then you have this media complex that's like, ooh, there's a conflict going on. Let's exploit it. Let's make this into a big story.
That's exactly it.
So
yeah, but I also want to stress, for us not to fall in that trap either.
Right.
This should be a conversation about the Women's March and not Bernie Sanders. Is he there to support and amplify the voices of the women who are organizing this and speaking and the unity principles? Absolutely. Should this be a conversation relitigating the primary again? No, and I want to work very hard not to do that. I think that we have to be very careful not to fall into that trap and talk about the extraordinary people who are going to be speaking at this conference, talking about not just reproductive rights that I think a lot of other traditional feminist organizations have done and done so successfully, but talking about economic rights and how, the Fight for 15 helps women and women of color the most, how ending the prison industrial complex is something that affects women of color the most. I mean, these are issues. Medicare for all covers women the most. There's a reason why we have to have those conversations, and it's because to really deal with these issues, including reproductive rights, we have to start at the root and have those conversations.
Yeah, and the problem that I'm seeing is the erasure of that entire purpose when you start bringing this one side versus the other side conversation into it. I mean, for example, talking about how Bernie Sanders incorrectly is the headliner, the keynote, whatever, is erasing Maxine Waters. And, and there are so many women of color that are going to be speaking at this conference or this convention, and they're not getting hyped. People are not talking about them. And again, these women of color, they're being erased by the media. And that's against the entire purpose of this convention. It's supposed to start, for example, I saw one tweet, I know, to bring it back to Twitter and everything, which, by the way, you're taking the day off in solidarity.
I am. Have you noticed?
I did notice. I noticed when your tweets weren't there.
It's been really hard. There's been a couple of moments. I'm like,
right?
Ooh, I want to tweet out this article.
But there was one that says, well, this whole convention is actually about celebrating Hillary's win for the popular vote. And it's like, no, you're not getting it. That's not what it's about. This is about, helping women be able to lead in issues like, for example, fighting for Medicare for all and fighting for these values that we're all supposed to be sharing within this party. But apparently some people will try and, divide us based on those policies and based on those positions.
Right.
And that's super, super sad. Again, like Joanne Reed and Neera Tanden wanting to set up a boycott.
Yeah, that's what was really disheartening to me is, you can have your critiques, and that's fair. You have a right, and I'm never going to diminish another woman's voice, no matter who it is. They have the right to speak up, just as I defended Hillary Clinton last week on TV. I said she has the right to go on a book tour, and she has a right to say what she wants. She's a citizen, and that's wonderful. But there's also responsibility with words, and to falsely accuse or to hurt other women while you are criticizing. I mean, when Neera Tanden says she's going to unsubscribe, I feel really bad. Because that's setting the precedent for other people, and it's as you said, it's erasure. It's what hurts us when we should be in. There's a reason why solidarity is used. If it's just going to be 8 people in a corner talking to each other, we're never going to advance on these issues. We have to. Something we learned in the civil rights movement in history is they had to bring in allies. So Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they brought in white pastors, right? They brought in Greek Orthodox bishops to come and march with them in Selma. And that's what they had to do to broaden and to communicate their message to people who were going to make a difference in policy. And so for us, ladies, to really take this, to fight misogyny, because we're fighting in the face of fascism and misogyny, which I think go hand in hand, and racism. All of this is intertwined and is rooted in economic policies. We need to have policymakers out there in support of us who aren't just us. And when Neera isn't just saying, okay, it should just be ladies, but then she's dividing it up so that it's just her ladies, that hurts us. We need to have, you know what, not just Senator Sanders, what we should have had is everybody who's great on feminist issues up there speaking. I'm sure that the founders did invite a lot of folks to come and speak.
They did, yeah.
But, including men. We need those allies. We need to have a man and a woman on stage saying feminism isn't just about women; it's about treating people equally. And to see a man get on stage and say, "I am a feminist." I interviewed Norman Lear last week, and I asked him what feminism meant to him because he notably portrayed a scene in one of his shows about abortion 2 weeks before Roe v. Wade was passed. And I said, "What does feminism mean to you?" And he's like, "That people should be treated equally." And we need to hear that. We need to hear that.
Yeah, I mean. I was talking to a friend earlier, I believe a mutual friend, and she said that men have to know that they have a place in feminism. And when you try to push people out, push men out and saying, well, you're silencing us by just being there and being one of two other men who are speakers, well, that diminishes feminism and that puts out the wrong signal that this is our thing and we don't need you. In fact, you guys are not our friends. You're not helping us at all. Get out. And that's not what you want to present as your side. You want to bring in allies who share the same goals as you're saying, and will actually help to bring about this change. So there is an absolutely big role for men in feminism.
Right. And there has to be.
There has to be.
If we want to teach our sons not to be sexual predators,
right,
or we want to teach our sons to say, you know what, I do believe in the $15 minimum wage because I want my wife to earn as much as I do, or, equal pay, for instance. If they're going to be out there fighting because they're in the boardrooms, right? If they're CEOs of a company and if you want to teach your sons to treat women better so that a woman doesn't have to lean in, right?
Right.
So that the man is saying, oh, I'm in the boardroom and I don't think it's fair that these people in this room these women in this room do not get paid what I get paid.
Right.
Or same thing with Hollywood. Then you have to lead by example.
It's even teaching women to negotiate for better pay as well. Because that is part of what the pay gap is about as well. Because we teach women to, culturally to be more passive and to not ask for what they should rightly deserve, what they should rightly get, for working those good jobs.
That's putting the burden on the woman. And, I can tell you countless women who've said they've been in a situation where they have negotiated, but because culturally we've become it's so rare to hear that there are men and women who do not respond.
Right, but we can do both.
That's why we teach men too.
Yeah, you teach men to, be good on the other side on that issue, and also teach women to be able to do that as well. And that's what equality is about, is teaching both to be better. And so, that's what we need to do, and that's where the role of men come into play into feminism as well, because we have the opportunity to teach, not only to teach but to learn ourselves and to change the things that we had been doing previously, And
that's exactly it.
When we do all this infighting, again, we take away from those opportunities to be able to do better and to teach the right lessons. In fact, we're teaching the wrong lesson, that it's an us versus them issue, and that, we should just fight each other instead of actually trying to work together. And that's what unity actually is supposed to be. And unfortunately, there are some people that will always seek to divide, but I don't think they're going to have as much of an impact, as you said, on this conversation as they would like to have.
And I thought, like, at the beginning of the day yesterday when this broke, that it was going to smooth over pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think when the reporters started to pick up on the responses, because let's not forget, like, there's a coordinated, organized side that's still funded and well-oiled.
Right.
Again, it does not reflect what's actually happening out in the real world, but match that with the factions in the party, like itself, the institutional factions, because the institutions are not reflective of the voters. We saw that in the election, right?
Absolutely.
You could have every single elected official, whether they willfully wanted to or not, support one candidate, but it does not represent the population. And so the problem is that they still control things, and they still, journalists still respond to them.
Right.
So when I saw the president of Emily's List criticize the Women's March, it was really unfortunate, and it saddened me because I feel, there are a lot of women out there who have invested in Emily's List, including myself, who supported Emily's List. And the whole point of Emily's List is to support women from the ground up. And a lot of people think that the institution's lost its way, but because this organization in particular was founded and rooted in helping women who didn't have access to capital raise money early in their campaigns, they should be even more sensitive to this issue of talking about economics on stage, and bringing in all the allies they can. So, symbolism only works so far. Of course you want to see more women running for office, and that encourages other women to run for office. Symbolism is powerful, but it's not everything.
All right, so...
Although, frankly, having Bernie Sanders on stage sends a message to a whole bunch of men to, like, this is what feminism is. This is what you stand for.
And that we can be part of that. And we can be part of this fight, and we're welcome to that part of this fight. And, thanks to Tamika Mallory for being able, and all the organizers of this, for sending that message of, hey, you can come alongside of us and fight with us. We want you there. And that's what that's what the message of Bernie Sanders actually sends. And look, he's been great on all these different issues for women and men, throughout his entire career. So, and the thing that frustrates me so much is to see them getting, smeared with, fake news. I mean, I hate saying it, but that's exactly what it is. It is, and it's, it's a different type of fake news. But there's been fake news for a long time. These institutions have had a direct line to a lot of reporters, and I think some reporters are definitely, noticing what's happening, and they're being a little bit more aware of the factions and the real lines and the game being played behind the scenes. But, this is, you don't make progress without pushing through all this stuff, and it's sad, but, it's going to take a little bit of time. And, but we will push through it. It's just one of those things that we're on the right side, and, if we keep fighting, we will win. We will win it over, because we've won over the people, and that's really all you need.
Yep. That's exactly it. No, it'll, in time, this stuff catches up.
That's right.
Absolutely catches up. You can't stifle the largest generation in history, right?
Right. All right. Thank you, Nomi. I definitely appreciate you spending some time with us here around the nation. When will you be speaking at the Women's Conference, or the Women's Convention, so that my audience knows? I keep calling it a conference, and I don't know why.
I do the same thing. I think on Saturday is when I speak. Who knows if the schedules might change, but I'll be there the whole time. I'll be also covering it for TYT Politics, and I hopefully will be over my cold that has been lingering with me for 2 weeks.
Well, I hope you feel better. Hope you feel better soon.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nomi.
Take care.
Everybody go find her at the Women's Convention, as well as catch up and watch her videos on TYT Politics. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron. at patreon.com/TYTNation.